Okay, continuing with our factoring for Module 12, Chapter 13. Let's talk about the greatest common factor. Sometimes it's called GCF. That means the biggest number or term that will go into a group of terms. So let's look at these three. 6x squared, 9x to the fourth, and negative 12x to the fifth. Let's look at the numbers 6, 9, and negative 12. Let's think about 6, 9, and negative 12. What's the biggest number that'll divide evenly into all three of those numbers? Just think about your times tables. Now, your book is going to show you to do the factor tree and factor, but I just want you to think about it. It's 3. 3 is the biggest number that'll go into 6, 9, and 12, or negative 12. Alright? Now, we've taken care of the numbers. Let's look at the variable term. Okay? We've got x squared, x to the fourth, and x to the fifth. You're always going to use, for your GCF, the smallest exponent. So here it's x squared. Because if you were to divide out x squared, 2 x's, this one has 2 x's to give. Does this one have 2 x's to give? Yes. Does this one have 2 x's to give? Yes. All of them have 2 x's at least. So 3x squared is the GCF of those three terms. That's all they were asking for. They weren't asking for you to do anything else. Okay, so let's look at another one. A to the fifth, B to the fourth, A, B to the third, and A to the third, B squared. Okay? Now, we don't have to worry about a number here. We've got to worry about our variables, though. So let's look at the A's. Here we've got 5, here we've got 1, here we've got 3. So if we said that A to the third, let's say, was the GCF, does this one have 3 to give? No, it doesn't have 3 to give. It only has 1 to give. So that means, because remember this is an invisible 1 right here, that means that A to the 1, or just A, would be all we could take out of all three of those. Alright, so let's look at our B. Remember, it's going to be the lowest exponent. So here we've got B to the fourth, B to the third, B squared. B squared would be our GCF. Because this one's only got 2 to give. Does this one have 2 to give? Yeah, it's got 2 to give. This one's got 2 to give. Okay, so that's how we find GCF for a set of terms. Okay, so let's look at it when they give us a binomial or a trinomial. Let's look at finding GCF and then dividing out that GCF or factoring out that GCF. So let's look at this one. 4x to the third plus 12x. And our directions would just say something like factor. Okay? So the first step, anytime we factor, is to factor out the GCF. So the GCF here would be, so looking at 4 and 12, what's the number that will divide evenly into both 4 and 12? And it's 4. Okay, what I'm going to have left, okay, are going to be 2 terms. It's going to look like this. So we've taken care of our numbers. Now let's look at our x's. This one's got 3. This one's only got 1. So the most we could take out of both would just be an x. X to the 1. Okay, remember that's there invisibly. So, if we divide a 4 out of 4, doesn't that just leave 1? If we divide an x out of x to the third, if we take 1x out, that leaves us with x squared. Okay, let's do the next one. If we divide a 4 into 12, that gives us a 3. If we remove 1x, we don't have any x's. Okay? You can always check yourself. Does this times this give you that? 4 times 1 is 4. X times x squared. Remember we add those exponents is x to the third. Yeah. 4x times 3. 4 times 3 is 12. Then x. So yes, we did that one correctly. So the answer should look like this when we factor that. That's factoring out the greatest common factor. Okay? So let's do another factoring out the greatest common factor. This one's going to be a trinomial. It's a trinomial because it's got 3 terms. Just like a tricycle has 3 wheels, a trinomial has 3 terms. Okay, so let's look at our numbers, 6, 3, and 9. The biggest number that'll go into 6, 3, and 9 is 3. Okay. All right, let's look at our a's. We've got a to the third and a to the third, and then we've got a squared. Okay, so the most we could take out of all 3 terms would be a squared. Okay, now let's look at our b's. We've got b to the 1, b squared, b to the 4th. Remember, it's your lowest exponent, so it's b to the 1. All right, now, in my parentheses, I'm going to have 3 terms here. Because if I have 3 terms here, I'm going to have 3 terms here. This is my greatest common factor. Okay, so if I divide 3 into 6, gives me 2. A squared, if I take out a squared, that leaves me with a to the 1. If I take out that b to the 1, I don't have a b left. Okay, 3 will go into 3 one time. We know we don't have to write that invisible 1. A squared into a to the third leaves me with a. Remember, when I'm dividing, I have those exponents. It's like subtracting. B into b squared. It's just going to leave me with b. All right, now let's do our next term. 3 into 9. We'll go 3 times. A squared into a squared. Just leaves a 1, doesn't? We don't have any a's. I've got b into b to the 4th. It's going to leave 3. All right, I can check myself to make sure I've done it correctly. 3 times 2 is 6. A squared times a is a to the third. B, okay, times 1 is b. 3, a squared b times ab. So I've got a squared and a gives me a to the third. B times b gives me b squared. Then I multiply my 3 times my 1. That's correct. Then 3a squared times b. So 3 times 3 is 9. And then my a squared. Then b times b to the third gives me b to the 4th. So I've factored out the greatest common factor for that trinomial.